Most people think financial planning is all about spreadsheets, calculators, strategies, but the numbers are important, but also the emotions do weigh into the decisions that you make and what's the best outcome for you. So this video is all about exploring that emotional side of planning. Stay tuned. Welcome into Perfect Game Retirement. Ben George with Ryan Ledden at Black Oak Asset Management as we dive into the emotional side of planning. Ryan, I know, look, you are very much a numbers guy. We talk about it all the time. You love the strategies, love actually digging into someone's numbers and doing the math to figure it out. But the emotions do weigh into the decisions that people are going to make.
Yeah, it really is almost like split down the middle, where the numbers are a huge component of it, but it's the emotion. And we're going to run through several of these kind of questions or types of emotions that people go through and deal with in retirement, really through their whole life. But especially in retirement, there's a lot of things changing and going on. And obviously we're not going to be around for forever. So what does that look like if there's a death of one spouse? And anyway, so with my job, I deal with it all the time. I mean, we have clients who pass every year, which is unfortunate, but it is part of the job. But that's what is rewarding for me, knowing that we're doing our job for them and kind of navigating these waters of kind of the unknown. So emotions, feelings. I mean, that's why the CFP exam has behavior finance as questions in the exam. So it's a big part of it, and we definitely address it here.
Yeah, and I want to kind of go through some of those conversations you have in the office there, Black Oak Asset Management, and kind of how you discuss these things with people. Because look, you think emotional, you might think of some really heavy topics, but some of these aren't. But they are things that really drive on how you feel about certain topics. So let's just start with the first one here of how much do you care about where you live? Obviously, where you live in retirement is a big part of figuring out a plan and figuring out how much you're going to need and how much you're going to spend. But how much does that emotional side or how you feel about a location play into this decision?
Yeah, I mean, we have a couple of clients who do the numbers on this, and they look at you can Google search all day long, best places to live in retirement, and it'll spit out 10 best cities or 10 best states or whatever. So some people do make decisions on that, but that's a minority for sure. I would say most people, it has some kind of a family tie, or they've lived in that house for a long period of time, and so there's an emotional bond to these things. Again, the family connection. So we have some clients who are like, well, we're close to our family, and if we sell this house, what are we going to get on the other side of the other end when we sell it? So yes, where you live is a huge emotional component. Yes, is there a financial component to it? Yes, very much so. But there's a lot of emotions when it comes to this. I mean, it's your home, and again, if you have family nearby, it's difficult. And I've used the example of my family. My dad lives in the parcel of land right next to us. So that's a big emotional draw for the both of us. My dad's approaching 80, and he's like, I do not want to move again. I know people probably say that a lot. I don't want to move again, or this is my last brand new car, and it's not. But there is an emotional tie there where the thought of me even moving is not even a thought because of him living there, and probably vice versa.
Yeah, so good one to start with there, and an important conversation you're going to have in retirement. What about this one, Ryan? Do you love getting into the details and the nitty gritty of your investments, or do you prefer things to be simple? So I know we all feel differently about money and how much we want to be involved in it, but how does this change the way you discuss things with clients?
Yeah, everyone's different when it comes to this. I mean, getting into the nitty gritty. I mean, I don't have too many that like to get in the weeds of this stuff. They want to be educated. They want to know what they have. But getting in the weeds of it, they may need to be a DIYer and do it on their own. If they're like kind of splitting atoms on what mutual funds or ETFs they have. So again, it's good to be educated on this stuff. Most people that work with us prefer the simplicity of things and just saying, okay, yep, this is what I got. This is why I have it. This is why I have it in the certain accounts that I do have them in. So as long as they know and they're educated, then they usually prefer that, because when they're in retirement, they're wanting to do the stuff that they want to do, not really scrutinize, what their funds are doing day in and day out. That's not how you want to spend retirement. So I would say more on they prefer the simplicity and the peace of mind of things.
All right, let's shift gears to debt, because debt is very much a numbers line item, right? You want to make sure that you aren't paying the interest. You want to make sure these things are paid down. But there's a huge emotional element to debt too, right? Some people say, okay, well, the math tells me I need to invest and keep this debt. But other people say, I don't care if I can get more on returns. I feel more comfortable having the debt completely paid off. So how much does this weigh in typically for people that you're working with?
Yeah, it's a huge deal from an emotional standpoint. Yeah, I mean, it does get to the point where you can justify like, oh, I need to keep my money invested because I'm earning more, like you just mentioned. But sometimes math isn't always the answer, and I've said that quite a few times. Math is not always the answer. It's debt does have an emotional component to it, and but we do want to be responsible with it as far as if a person really wants to pay their house off and maybe they have a few $100,000 left on their home, and maybe they only have a half million of investable assets. Well, we do need to weigh the emotions there, but we do need to weigh the math there. Does that take too much of their assets or their liquidity to pay a house off? Obviously, yes, you have a paid for house, but at the same time, a house is not very liquid because the only way to sell your home is to have that cash. So there is a math component and an emotion component. Consumer debt, I am 100% get rid of consumer debt, please, 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 because that usually the interest rates aren't very favorable. And you could argue now that interest rates aren't great from a house standpoint or a mortgage standpoint, but historically speaking, we're still in a pretty good environment. Now, if you had any mortgage pre 2022, you probably have a really good rate. So then it's like, okay, then we do sometimes number crunch, but again, math is not always the answer.
Yeah, very much so in that debt conversation. And what about the market volatility conversation, right? How you're invested. I know you have to ask somebody how they feel about risk and how much they're comfortable with seeing the market go up and down. How much does that emotion and those feelings about the market and risk play into how you help someone invest their money?
Yeah, it's a huge component, and it's usually only when the markets are down. Markets are up, your people aren't worried about volatility because volatility works both ways. It goes up and goes down. So that's where they really need to know and be educated on what their range of returns are inside their portfolio based off of how it is built. Now, do I expect clients to remember what their range of returns are, or their standard deviation, or what their risk number is? Do I expect them to remember that all the time? No. I mean, that's part of our job. That's the education part. When we do reviews with people, especially when the markets are down, we say, hey, markets are down this, but your portfolio is down this. We're still within that range of returns that are acceptable. Because again, if you don't like the downside, well, the top side, the plus side's got to come down too. That's how standard deviation works in a portfolio. So if you bring up the downside, the top side's got to come down. So the guardrails get squeezed. If you're willing to go further down, you can potentially willing to go further up. So that's where we want to construct a portfolio that's right for people, because market volatility does matter, and it's usually when it's down.
All right, a couple more here I want to discuss. Let's talk about giving. I mean, I know giving is important for a lot of people. I know a lot of people that you work with as well, but having a strong emotional tie towards helping people financially, how does that work into the plan?
Yeah, a few different ways, but we like to tell people, especially if they're at R&D age where they're having to take required minimum distributions, and maybe they don't need all of that money to live off of. Well, any retiree giving money to a nonprofit organization needs to give it out of their IRA because it accounts for their RMD. So it kind of checks that box, but they don't pay tax on it, and the nonprofit entity gets it tax free too. So it is like a no brainer. If you are charitably inclined and you want to give money away, do it through your IRA or even do it through a donor advised fund. And again, that's a whole nother conversation, but those are some things you need to think about giving that money away. I love it that people value the giving component, whether it's a nonprofit or maybe they want to give their legacy away while they're alive to family members to help them out as a gift. So you can go up to the gift tax exclusion and not pay any tax on it. So you're allowed to give that away to as many people as possible. So I love people that are inclined to give, whether it's to family members or people in need or a charity. I love it.
All right. And kind of tying in that same idea is the financial legacy. I know this is really important to some. Others don't really care about it as much, but how you feel about the financial legacy will, again, determine a lot of the strategies you use in retirement, right?
That's right. And again, everyone's different when it comes to how they want to leave the legacy. Maybe it's they leave it behind once they are gone from us. So they want to give those assets away while they're after they pass. I personally, I would like to be a person who if I'm in a financial situation, I want to give that money away while I'm alive. I want to see my kids, or hopefully one day my grandkids, enjoy this money. And again, it's a gift to them. Now, right now, the estate tax exclusion is very, very high. So I don't know if giving money away for some people while they're alive is a huge priority. Now, if the gift tax, the estate tax exclusion was a lot less, then maybe people would think more about it. But also, you can give to financial institution, higher education institutions for tuition. So if you have grandkids that are in school, you can pay that school directly in the tuition. So tons of ways to leave a legacy behind after you're gone, or leaving a legacy even while you're alive. I think it's to have that conversation is a must.
Well, at the end of the day, again, numbers will provide the framework, but your feelings really help decide and determine which path forward you need to make with your plan. And that's, again, why you work with the financial advisor, a certified financial planner like Ryan, who will take all these different factors into account to help you find the best plan for it, right? It's not a one size fits all approach to retirement. You need to figure out, again, works well with the numbers and what also works well with how you feel about certain things. And these are just some of the conversations they have at Black Oak Asset Management. But your feelings do play a part. And hopefully you've enjoyed this and feel good about where you stand after watching this video. If you do, please subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that. Leave a comment as well if you have one for us. We'd appreciate that. Have a good day. Ryan, thanks for the insight as always. Talk to you again soon.
Yes, no doubt.